Rob Norris was a guitarist for the Velvet Underground during their tour of Great Britain in the fall of 1972 to promote the release of their fifth studio album, Squeeze. When he was a teenager, a young Rob went to see one of his favorite bands, The Middle Class, perform at his local high school. One of the opening acts was the Velvet Underground, and it was their first gig with Maureen Tucker on December 11th, 1965, at the Summit High School Auditorium. Rob was fascinated by the look and sound of the band and instantly became a fan. He didn't get to see the Velvet Underground again until a few years later when they were playing at the club, the Boston Tea Party. Rob lived in the area and met Lou Reed in an awkward conversation where he thought he was a speed freak because of how nervous he was to meet his big idol. And Reed lectured him about the evils of doing drugs. But Rob talked to him about seeing their first paid show at Summit High. Reed warmed up to him and introduced him to a superfan turned musician, Jonathan Richman. Rob would lose contact with the band until he read an article about the Velvet Underground resurfacing in the spring of 1971 in Cleveland when they were playing at the Agora. They were touring in small venues promoting their fourth album, Loaded, with the lineup of Doug Yule, Sterling Morrison, Walter Powers, and Maureen Tucker. He vowed to go see them the next time they were in his area, and on June of 1971, after the Velvets played a show in Detroit on June 18th, he decided to check them out when they played in Gloucester, Massachusetts, in a small club. On stage, he noticed that the bassist for the show wasn't Walter Powers, a musician he'd known since the Boston Tea Party days. Doug said that the guy's name was Larry Estridge, and he filled in for Walter when he fell down a flight of stairs after the show in Detroit and broke his jaw. So after the show, he went backstage to chat with the band and met Jonathan Richman again. Rob bumped into the band's manager, Steve Sesnick, and asked him if he could audition as the band's temporary bassist, and he said sure. He and Doug gave Rob an on-the-spot audition for their upcoming 3-day residency at the Main Point in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. But in the end, Larry Estridge and Walter Powers played the shows. In the fall of 1971, the Velvet Underground would tour Europe and Great Britain to promote the release of Loaded. Sales of the tour did not do as well as Atlantic Records had expected, especially when word got around that Lou Reed left the band. They played 34 shows. After the tour ended, Steve Sesnick sent everybody home except Doug Yule, who went into a local London studio to lay down tracks for a solo album. After they were finished, he proceeded to shop them around to various record companies after Atlantic ended their 2-record deal with the release of Live at Max's Kansas City, a fan-made recording in the late spring of 1972. During the spring and summer of 1972, Rob Norris was in a rock band managed by Steve Sesnick called the Rockets, with Doug's brother Billy Yule on drums, Rob on rhythm guitar, George Ardo on lead, and Hank Daniels on vocals. Sesnick was trying to get them a record deal, but Polydor Records offered to buy the recordings, but they wanted to release as a Velvet Underground album instead of a Doug Yule solo project, and the album was going to be titled Squeeze. Sesnick quickly abandoned the Rockets and focused on the band whom he owned the rights to, the Velvet Underground, and asked Rob if he wanted to be part of the group, and he said yes. Polydor wanted the Velvet Underground to tour the UK to promote its release in the fall of 1972. The lineup for the tour was going to be Doug Yule on vocals and guitar, Maureen Tucker on drums, Sterling Morrison on lead guitar, and Rob Norris playing bass. Maureen and Rob would jam together a few times in anticipation for the upcoming tour, but when Sterling decided not to hit the road again, Maureen lost interest as well. Sesnick had to hire a drummer from the talent agency ATI, Mark Newseth, who, according to Rob Norris, never heard of the Velvet Underground. Doug Yule arrived a few days later before their flight to Great Britain and practiced with the band. Bassist George Kay from the Rockets was brought in, and Rob moved over to rhythm guitar. The Squeeze tour lasted from November 12th through December 9th, 1972. When the band arrived in England for their first show, they had no instruments, no tour bus, no money, and nowhere to stay. Steve Sesnick ran off with a deposit, leaving Yule, Norris, Kay, and Nausif stranded at the airport. But they managed to get a hold of some equipment and a tour bus. The Velvets played 9 dates. How did the tour go? Well, that's another story. Most of the information that made this video possible came from a fanzine article written by Rob Norris called I Was a Velveteen. I would also like to thank the Velvet Underground webpage for providing additional information as well. The website has an archive of all articles and history relating to the Velvet Underground. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Take care now.